We begin here in Tokyo, where Prime Minister Suga Yoshihide has extended a coronavirus state of emergency covering the capital and 3 neighboring prefectures for 2 more weeks.
緊急事態宣言を2週間延長し
I've decided to extend the state of emergency for 2 weeks until March the 21st. That time is necessary to contain the spread of infections, as well as to assess the situation more carefully.
必要な期間であります。
The declaration has been in place for Tokyo, Saitama, Chiba, and Kanagawa since January 7th. It was due to end on Sunday, but will now remain through March 21st. Suga said criteria, including daily new cases and hospital capacity, have improved in the greater Tokyo area, but not enough to lift the emergency. Earlier on Friday, over 300 new infections were confirmed in the capital. Overall, the figure has been declining, but the rate has been slowing. The number of weekly new cases through Friday was bigger than the week before for the first time since mid-January. The Prime Minister again called on the public to cooperate to contain the virus.
飲食店の
We will maintain current measures such as shortened business hours for restaurants, a voluntary ban on non-essential outings, and more working from home. Those have proven effective. Together with local governments, we will continue to strongly encourage these measures. The government will carry out virus tests at about 30,000 elderly care facilities and other locations by the end of this month to detect infections and prevent possible clusters.
Suga also spoke about the hospitality industry, which has been hit hard by the pandemic. He said his administration will maintain expanded wage subsidies and other financial programs. Following the extension of the declaration, the Tokyo governor has urged people to remember the state of emergency is still in place and take necessary measures.
The state of emergency exists to protect the lives of metropolitan residents and medical workers. I am determined to contain the virus together with people in Tokyo.
The Tokyo metropolitan government will continue to ask bars and restaurants to close early and ask people to refrain from non-essential outings. Parties will be banned in all metropolitan parks as cherry blossom viewing season is around the corner. A Japanese partner of U.S. biotechnology firm Moderna has applied for authorization to use the firm's coronavirus vaccine in Japan. The request is the third such application after U.S. pharmaceutical firm Pfizer and British drug company AstraZeneca. The Japanese government signed a contract with Moderna for 50 million doses, or enough for 25 million people, to be supplied by September. Takeda Pharmaceutical Company, which will distribute the vaccine in Japan for Moderna, filed the application with the Health Ministry on Friday. The vaccine should be easier to ship and store than the Pfizer vaccine. Regulators in the U.S. say that the Moderna vaccine can be kept in standard freezers at a temperature of around minus 20 degrees Celsius. Japan's health minister has spoken at the ministry in Tokyo.
The application will be duly screened once further important details about the Moderna vaccine are provided in May.
Meanwhile, the minister in charge of Japan's vaccination rollout, Kono Taro, said at a news conference that the delivery of Pfizer vaccines to about 4.8 million medical workers is expected to be completed in the first half of May. As global vaccination programs ramp up, some countries are expressing concern about how they're being distributed. In the latest turn, Italy is blocking a shipment of 250,000 doses of AstraZeneca's vaccine bound for Australia, saying the drug manufacturer has failed to live up to contractual obligations to the European Union. The Italian government cited vaccine shortages and delivery delays inside the country as the reason for the move. Under EU rules, pharmaceutical companies can be barred from exporting vaccines if they don't meet supply commitments they've made inside the bloc. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison says he understands why Italy wants to secure a stable supply, adding that his country's vaccine rollout will not be disrupted as a result.
We've been able to secure our supplies and additional supplies for importation both with Pfizer and AstraZeneca, which means we can continue the rollout of our program.
Australian officials say they've asked the European Commission to review the decision. The Japanese government has been following the situation closely, but says it doesn't expect its shipments from the EU will be affected.
So far, all vaccine exports from EU countries to Japan have been permitted. Japan will continue working to ensure a stable supply.
Now to China, where thousands of senior Communist Party members from across the country have gathered in Beijing for the National People's Congress. Chinese leaders have unveiled this year's economic growth target at the event, setting it at more than 6%. Premier Li Keqiang made the announcement in a wide-ranging speech on the first day of the week-long gathering. China didn't set a growth target last year due to the coronavirus. Li also praised the country's handling of the pandemic, saying that China is the only major economy to achieve growth in 2020. Another issue that will be high on the agenda is electoral reform in Hong Kong.
We will improve the relevant systems in Hong Kong and Macau to enforce the Constitution and the basic laws. We will ensure they are implemented in both regions in order to safeguard national security, and we will guard against foreign interference.
Beijing's top official on Hong Kong affairs said recently that key positions in the Hong Kong government, legislature, and judiciary should only be filled by party loyalists. Critics say it's the latest move by the mainland to quash the territory's pro-democracy movement. The Chinese government also said Friday that the annual defense budget will be over $200 billion, up 6.8% from last year. It's unclear exactly how that money will be spent. Other countries have raised concerns about a lack of transparency in China's military outlays. Turning to the ongoing strife in Myanmar, UNICEF is now calling on security forces to halt the killing and arbitrary detention of children in the wake of last month's military takeover. Anti-coup protesters again took to the streets of Yangon on Friday. This video shows protesters retreating from volleys of tear gas. The military has been escalating its use of force, leading to more casualties. The UN says more than 50 people have been killed in the country since the February 1st coup. The figure includes 38 people killed on Wednesday alone. UNICEF said at least 5 children have reportedly been killed and 4 others severely wounded as of Wednesday. The agency also estimates more than 500 children have been arbitrarily detained. UNICEF East Asia and Pacific Regional Office in Bangkok told NHK on Friday they are concerned about the situation.
UNICEF condemns in the strongest possible terms the use of force against children and calls upon the security forces to refrain from using force against children.
The agency added children are being exposed to horrific scenes of violence, putting them at risk of severe psychosocial distress. It's nearly 10 years since the disaster at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant. Now people who fled a village in the region have filed a lawsuit. They're seeking compensation for radiation exposure, saying authorities botched their initial response to the accident. 29 plaintiffs filed the suit with the Tokyo District Court on Friday. They're seeking nearly $2 million in damages from the government and the plant's operator, Tokyo Electric Power Company. The edge of Iitate village is around 30 kilometers from the nuclear plant. After the accident, residents were initially told they didn't need to leave, but about a month later, they were told to evacuate. The plaintiffs say the government failed to inform them of rising radiation levels in the early stages, leaving them exposed.
For the rest of our lives, we have to live with anxiety. The authorities should do something to ease that.
Residents say they lost their homes and farms when the village-wide evacuation eventually came. They say that destroyed their community and robbed them of their hometown. The plaintiffs' lawyers say the mass lawsuit is thought to be the first seeking compensation for radiation exposure in the early days of the accident. People in New Caledonia are bracing for the arrival of a powerful tropical cyclone. Our meteorologist Sayaka Mori has the forecast.
Hello there. There are 3 tropical cyclones in the southern hemisphere, and the strongest one is Tropical Cyclone Niran. This system is now heading towards New Caledonia. You can see a clear eye in the center. Now, it's projected to pound the main island of New Caledonia on Saturday morning, local time. It's projected to bring very strong wind. Gusts could be nearly 200 kilometers per hour, so many trees could be battered by the storm, and waves are going to be very high as well. Heavy rain pounded western Japan on Friday. We saw heavy rainfall, especially over Kyushu. 146 millimeters fell in 24 hours in Saiki, making the record for the month of March. Rain is now heading towards the east. We have a low right here that will continue to bring ample moisture to central Japan. And there's another front system. This system is dragging frigid air from the north, so temperatures will drop significantly. Although Sapporo saw 10 degrees on Friday, the daytime high on Saturday will be -3 degrees, so be careful of a sudden change in temperature. Sendai will see a single-digit high on Sunday, and Tokyo will see 12 degrees on Sunday, so do bundle up. The cherry blossom season will likely arrive soon in western Japan, and also for Tokyo, the flowers will start to come out on March 15th. That's the second earliest on record, and also 11 days earlier than usual. Frigid air will continue to batter northwestern Russia. We can see very low temperatures and snowy weather as well. And under shivering conditions, a unique event is taking place in northwestern areas of Russia. A photographer and an artist are taking their works of art and placing them in the frigid waters underneath the ice. Visitors have to put on a diving suit and go into the White Sea, which is hovering right around freezing this time of year. If you're brave enough, you can enjoy the display until mid-April. That's it for me. Have a nice weekend.
Pope Francis has urged Iraq's different religious communities to join together in a journey towards peace. At the start of the first ever papal visit to the country, he called for an end to violence and extremism. Myanmar's military rulers are facing further international condemnation at a UN Security Council meeting in New York. It's as protesters continue to defy the army's attempts to crush opposition. China's Premier Li Keqiang has warned the world not to interfere in Hong Kong as plans to overhaul the electoral system in the territory were revealed. The European Union has sharply criticised the move. In the latest clip from her forthcoming interview with Oprah Winfrey, the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan, says she feels liberated now that she and Prince Harry can make their own choices without the royal family.